All right, welcome back to First Team Fantasy. We are going to be covering the Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, and Monday night game here. To kick it off, we have the New England Patriots traveling to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. The Patriots offense especially has looked absolutely horrendous. They have scored 3 points in the past two games while giving up 72 points.
Yep.
And I mean, the Raiders defense, surprisingly, this is as a Raider fan, our defense has actually not looked completely terrible, especially as of late. The Raiders are currently 12th against the pass, which is giving up 197 yards a game. They are 23rd against the rush. That's been their weak point, giving up 129 a game. But the Patriots offense has just looked so bad, and they're going to be without Juju and Demario Douglas. So when I'm looking at who I'm going to start on this Patriots offense, I mean, obviously not Mac Jones. Mondre has been terrible. We've seen Zeke cutting into him. And, I mean, if there was a week, you could say against this weak Raiders run defense, it's just tough because the Patriots offense as a whole has just looked terrible. So I don't
The
know.
only thing that would give me hope was AJ Dillon's performance in this previous week.
Mm-hmm.
The Raiders are coming off a short week, so I mean that's the only thing that gives me hope. If Ramondre can't get it done this week, then
It's just absolutely done, but it's one of those things where we haven't seen him get it done. It's how when we talked about Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, it's just he has not gotten it done. So if you have another option that has been even giving you solid numbers, I'd say until Mondre shows you that he can get it done, it's just tough if you roll him out against a Raiders defense and he gives you another 6-7 point week and you lose because of it. It's just very scary. But
yeah,
out of anyone on this offense, obviously, I'd say Mondre has the highest upside. I mean, you have Kendrick Bourne, Devonta Parker, but with Mac throwing him the ball, I'm not very confident. Hunter Henry's even kind of fallen off. We talked about through the first 2 weeks, he caught a touchdown in each of those games, so that really helped him out fantasy-wise.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if you want to touch on anything else on the Patriots side of the ball. It's been ugly.
Said all I need to say.
Yeah. And then the Raiders side of the ball, the Patriots are 7th against the pass. They're 16th against the rush, which is actually very good for how you've seen, them perform as of late. Their defense is still solid, but again, you lose Christian Gonzalez, you lose Matt Judon. It's your number one pass rusher, number one D lineman, and your number one corner. So it's huge losses there. The Raiders are the same story. Jimmy G not starting him, but Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers. That's it. It's very simple for me. Daniel Carlson, I'm still honestly, I would have already dropped him by now. The Raiders aren't scoring enough for me to have continue rolling him.
After that last week, but
okay, they still won the game. It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, it's just simple with the Raiders. I don't know if you have too much more. My last comment is going to be Jacoby. Please do not throw it backwards to a Patriots D lineman if the game's on the line.
You never know which team will be playing for in this one. On to the next one. I've got the Cardinals going to Los Angeles to play the Rams. The over-under is 48. The Rams are favored by 7 in this one. Cards are 0-2 on the road. The Rams are also 0-2 at home. I don't think that's going to matter much in this one. I really like the pass catchers for the Rams. Even if you have to play Tutu Atwell, he's still shown that he's got some relevance if you have to put him in at a flex. Like I said, I like it more than some other guys that you might have to think about starting this week. They like to pass the ball a lot. They're averaging 270 yards in the air per game, and the Cardinals happen to be giving up 251 through the air. I think it's going to be a pass-happy game. I think this is a get-right game for Matt Stafford. I think he's a good start this week. If you have to stream him, I like him more than a lot of other quarterbacks. Even like Brock Purdy, Geno Smith. I think I might even like him more than Dak Prescott against the Chargers this week.
Yeah.
We'll touch on that later, but the Cardinals scoring 21.6 points per game. Their offense has not been like a travesty at all. We've seen Hollywood Brown get it done. He already has 300 receiving yards on the year. Without James Conner, we're going to see whether it's Amari DiMercato or Keontae Ingram. Ingram is currently listed as the RB1 on the depth chart, but we saw what DiMercato offered last week, and it looked like he had some spring in his step. So we'll see how that works out. I don't know about starting either one of them this week. They're averaging 143 rush yards per game, which tells me that they are going to be running the ball. So if you have to take a shot, I might prefer DeMercado just because
Yeah.
Keontae Ingram is coming off of an injury and DeMercado is coming off of a decent game last week. But it's tough to really say that one of them is going to give you, because we don't know how it's going to be. We don't know who's going to get more touches. Something I'd say similar to the Ravens backfield. It's just hard to guess.
Yeah.
You're kind of just picking one and hoping for the best at that point. And the Rams are giving up 120 rushing yards on the ground per game. So I think whichever one, they have a good shot. I don't hate either start, but like I said, you just don't really know. And it could be tough. The Rams are giving up 207 or 206 pass yards per game. So I do like Hollywood if Hollywood's playing. Zach Ertz, we know, is all reliable if you got to throw him in at tight end.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to say after last week where Michael Wilson just disappeared. He's kind of more of a guy that I think is a decent stash at this point, especially if Kyler were to come back. But it's hard to say what this offense is going to do, especially given their position right now. It's just hard to tell. I don't really like too much outside of Hollywood Brown and Zach Ertz for the Cardinals. On the Rams, like I said, I like the pass catchers. Even Tyler Higbee, if you have to go there. The Cardinals have been chronically bad against tight ends. Kyron Williams is even a good start this week. The Cardinals are not very good against the rush. They're giving up 124 rush yards per game. So even though he's been inefficient, I do believe that this week Kyron gets it done. He might get a touchdown, maybe 2 on the ground. And I think it's just going to be a good week for the Rams offense overall. If you got anything to add to that?
No, I think it's very simple. You just to touch quickly on Tutu Atwell. He's the one that saw his targets drop. He only got 5 targets this past game. He did catch a touchdown. The bright spot about Tutu Atwell is the Rams run a lot of 3 receiver set, and every single time, Van Jefferson be gone. He is not good.
But he's not going to be on the field anymore. I don't think Ben Skoranek is something to worry about either.
Yeah, it's just worth noting that Tutu Atwell was still out there at least 80% of the snaps this past week. I don't see it changing. And on a high-powered offense, I still like Tutu Atwell, absolutely. But, that's all I really had.
Yeah, on to the next one.
Yeah, that'll take us to the Eagles traveling to New York and playing the Jets. I'm going to start on the Jets side of the ball on this one. I had Kyron Williams as my must-sit of last week, and if I had to pick one for this week, it's going to be Breece Hall. I know he's been looking good as of late. Was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, because no. It was last week.
Okay.
Against the Eagles.
Okay. Well, either way, when the Rams played him, the Eagles' defense is number 1 against the run. They give up 64 yards on the ground. Now they are without Jalen Carter, and they are without Darius Slay. Yeah, it's just even without Jalen Carter on that D line, it's just they have so much.
They have Jordan Davis. Yeah,
they have so much power. Even without Darius Slay and Maddox, it's just the Jets. Zach Wilson, I just cannot trust. The only guy I am absolutely starting on the Jets is Garrett Wilson, just because of his talent alone and the volume that they throw his way, rightfully so. He is absolutely worth a start. Allen Lazard had one solid week where he caught a touchdown, but he's averaging like 4 targets a game, so you're just not going to get too much from that. It's just going to be a rough week. We've liked Tyler Conklin in the past. I like him in other matchups. In this matchup, even though the Eagles haven't been that great at tight end, I'm just thinking back when, the Eagles played the Bucs, and I think the Bucs have a more functioning offense than the Jets. I think the Jets are going to struggle to score points even in this game. It's going to be an ugly one for Jets on the Jets side of the ball. When I look at the Eagles, it's very obvious to me who to start. Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and now Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert starting to get a little more volume. Only thing that scares me in this one, but again, they'll have to get up to that point.
I'm fading him this week because the Jets the linebackers have been performing at a very high
Mm-hmm.
level. CJ Mosley and Quincy Williams have been very good. So I mean, like we talk about, I might prefer Tyler Conklin over him just because. I mean, it's kind of a reach, but Conklin's been, getting at least 5 targets a week. He's kind of the
Mm-hmm.
safety valve the Eagles are going to be pressuring. I think he might get some work. Whereas on the other side of the ball, Sauce Gardner is going to miss this game. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that really affects the Jets secondary. Whereas it was a team before, they've been very hard to pass on. You have DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner. I just said his name.
Mm-hmm.
But, losing Sauce, obviously, that's going to make it a lot more difficult of a matchup for that Jets defense. And I think the Eagles receivers
Yeah,
are
and,
going to
and,
be able
and
to
and
eat.
this could be a game where, the Eagles defense could possibly score points. I mean,
Yeah.
literally get a fumble recovery touchdown, a pick six, something like that. It's going to be a tough one. I think the Eagles go up early and it stays that way. So I mean, I like Eagles side of the ball. Dallas Goedert, I agree with because we saw Devonta Smith this past week against the Rams kind of have a very poor outing, and that's when you saw Dallas Goedert kind of pick things up. But again, will that be the case
Yeah.
as the season goes on? Who knows? So
It's hard to say.
yeah,
Um, is that all you have for that one, though?
yeah.
Moving on. All right. The next one we have is the Lions going to Tampa Bay to take on the Bucks. The over-under is 42.5. The Lions are favored by 3. I mean, I think it's very simple. The Lions are actually 2-0 on the road in this season so far, which is pretty good to note because usually Jared Goff has repeatedly or been known as a quarterback who only really does good at home. The Lions are scoring 29.6 points per game right now,
Mm-hmm.
and the Bucks are only allowing 17. It's kind of one of those where we'll see which is better. I think the Lions are still going to do good in this game.
Yeah.
We know David Montgomery with Jahmyr Gibbs out, even if he was playing. Dan Campbell came out and said this past week that David Montgomery is a guy he wants to give 20 to 25 carries a game to, and he thinks that he is. And Jahmyr Gibbs is just going to be a change of pace back anyways. So we know Montgomery's going to eat. I mean, I think it's safe to say he scores another touchdown in this one.
Yeah.
Honestly, why not? They feed him. They like him. Amon-Ra is back and cleared to go. We talked about Sam Laporta earlier, something that is very important to watch, but also their other tight end,
Brock Wright.
Mitchell. Brock Wright is playing, but the other one, Mitchell, is missing.
Mm.
So it would just be Brock Wright
Yeah.
if both of them were to miss. I mean, that's really all. I think Jared Goff is a decent start.
Mm-hmm.
And David Montgomery, and that if Sam Laporta goes, you already know right now. But if not, I'd stay away from the other one. But like I said, it's something you really have to pay attention to because they play later than a lot. Obviously, a lot of the games, there's 8 games at 10 a.m. So you are losing out on 16 possible tight end options by the time Sam Laporta gets that designation. So it might be something that you want to just pivot to regardless. But it is a little scary just knowing that you might have a lot of options gone by the time they even rule him out.
Yeah.
Going on to the other side of the ball, Mike Evans was cleared to play this week, so he will be a full go. Even then, obviously you're starting Mike Evans. I'm just a little worried about the re-injury, but if he says he's good to go, he's been cleared, he practiced, you're playing him. The Lions' pass defense has actually been their kind of weakness. They've been very stout against the run, and as a matter of fact, the Bucs are only getting 87 yards per game on the ground, which for me makes Rachaad White a very scary start.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is he's one of those guys that is a pure volume play. He's going to be the guy. Keyshawn Vaughn and good Lord, I forget the other guy that had some hype. They're nothing. They're dust. They're not going to eat into his role. Rachaad White's fine for that, standpoint, but I think it's going to be a tough week for him. He could probably save his week by catching a few passes in a PPR setting. But other than that, yeah, the Lions haven't given up too much on the ground. So like I said, Mike Evans, I think is going to be, he said he's full go. He's a good play. Chris Godwin. And that's about it for the Bucs. If you have to start Baker Mayfield, I mean, the Lions haven't been great against the pass, so he's not the worst option, but there are quarterbacks I like more.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I
Like
don't even
Jared
have.
Goff.
Yeah, Jared Goff, and how you touched on Stafford earlier, who's probably available. I mean, yeah, there's just probably better pivots. My last game is going to be the Sunday night game, which should be a fairly easy one because it is the Giants.
Lord knows why that didn't get flexed.
The Giants traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Saquon again questionable with that ankle. Who
I
knows
doubt
if
he
he's
plays.
going to play? Yeah, I doubt he plays too. Daniel Jones is out. Darren Waller with the groin, he expects to play. It's just Tyrod Taylor's the quarterback. If Saquon's out, I don't even really like Breida that much against this Bills uh, rush defense. You know, the rush defense is actually 25th in the league, 134 yards, but it's just Matt Breida and
I
with
mean, a large part of that, they got tore up last week by
ETN.
Travis Etienne, but Matt Breida is not Travis Etienne. So,
No. And then
and that Giants offensive line is putrid.
yeah, and then I look at the pass catchers, and I still like Wandale the most, but again, especially with Tyrod, I'm just like I'm avoiding all Giants pass catchers other than if you want to roll Darren Waller, I mean, I
He
guess.
might be one of those hyper target situations just because he's a reliable backup quarterback that he might finish the game with 5 or 6 catches for like 40, 50 yards. I
Hmm.
don't think you can expect a touchdown from anybody on the New York Giants this week. It's going to be tough. Like, I'm
No,
sorry, all Giants fans. It's going to be tough.
I'd completely agree with that. And then, we go to the Bills side of the ball, and again, things are very easy. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, all very obvious. James Cook, I'm telling you, it's going to be his bounce back week. The Giants are 30th against the rush, giving up 151 yards a game. If there is going to be a week for James Cook to bounce back, it's going to be this week. I mean, I like his start. Obviously, we know he's kind of split with Latavius and even Damian Harris a little bit, but he's the young running back coming off a very tough week, and it's the Giants. So, I mean, it's a good matchup for anyone on the Bills. Obviously, Schiff
Yeah.
had touched on Kincaid, questionable with the concussion. Very rare we see people get cleared within a week with a concussion. So honestly, it's just my opinion. I think Kincaid ends up missing this game. They don't try to rush him back. I think Dawson Knox probably ends up playing. He has that wrist injury. He's also questionable. But even still, there's just better tight end options out there. Knox is a red zone threat, but I just think there's better plays.
Yeah, I mean, for example, like Zach Ertz might be available. I think on Sleeper he is available in 58% of leagues.
Yeah, I like Zach Ertz more because
So
he's just a top target compared to Knox, who kind of.
yeah, I mean, at that point, Tyler Conklin's available 14%, or he is rostered in 14% of leagues. So he should be widely available. Someone that I prefer. They're just not as like Dawson Knox targets aren't going to come as often as Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis targets, and that's just the reality.
Yeah. Oh, one more question. Question for me specifically. If a fantasy owner has Buffalo's defense against the Giants with Tyrod, and also the Niners defense against the Browns with PJ Walker, which defense would you roll?
I'd personally say the Niners. The Niners aren't missing any pieces. We saw what the Ravens defense was able to do going into Cleveland against a Cleveland team without their starting quarterback. I feel like it's going to be a lot more of that. I don't know that PJ Walker is, it's his first start with the Browns. He had some good games with the Panthers, but let's be honest, this Niners defense might be the best in the league. They terrorized the Cowboys last week.
Yeah.
I think that's the route to go.
Worth noting. I'll start the Bills.
Okay.
All right, take us home. Take us home with the last game.
We will come back to that.
Take us home.
And yeah, for our final game, the Monday night game, we have the Cowboys going into Los Angeles to take on the Chargers. The over-under in this one is 51 points, and Dallas is favored by 1.5 points. Cowboys are 1-2 on the road. Chargers are only 1-1 at home. Cowboys are putting up 26.8 points per game and the Chargers 27.5. So both these are very high scoring teams. We saw the Cowboys defense is clearly not invincible. Last week, they got absolutely dominated by the 49ers. A lot of that came with, the turnovers from Dak and them having to be on the field a lot of the time. But I think the Chargers offense, they have some juice. They have Austin Eckler back. With Eckler coming back, I think that offers quite a bit, like more than the Chargers have had with Josh Kelly. I think we're going to see a lot more dynamic version of the Chargers offense than we've seen. And Justin Herbert has still been able to do very good and finish as one of the top 5 quarterbacks so far up to this point, missing guys every single week. Cowboys are only allowing 16.6 points per game. But like I said, with the weapons and, Keenan's healthy, Eckler's healthy, we'll see what happens with Quentin Johnston and Josh Palmer. I still think Josh Palmer is the better start as of right now. We really haven't seen Q get acclimated yet. Maybe later on, I still like him as far as the talent goes. But as for right now, we've seen Josh Palmer get it done. And I think Josh Palmer is the option until we see that change, kind of like what I said with Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor, except to more of a degree because Q is a rookie.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're starting Tony Pollard. He's had, he didn't do so great against the Niners. He's had a couple other rough weeks. The Chargers are chronically terrible against the run. I think this is going to be a week where Tony Pollard I think the Cowboys offense is kind of going to be a get right game after they were absolutely able to do nothing against the Niners. It was fairly pathetic. And I think, CD's been frustrated. This game might be a turnaround for them. I think CD is a great start. Obviously, each and every week you are starting him regardless. At this point, I have pretty much moved on from Brandon Cooks. I think it's obvious that Michael Gallup is the number 2 in this offense. There's even been talk of them going out and getting Jerry Jeudy or whatnot. So I don't think that Brandon Cooks is really going to offer anything stable fantasy-wise. And then, Jake Ferguson, I think, is yet another good option at tight end. I'm rolling him this week. He's coming off of not the greatest week against the Niners, but the Niners have some of the best linebackers in the league, if not the best. Fred Warner is probably the best linebacker in the league, and the Chargers do not have that. Their pass defense is just so insanely weak. I really think Michael Gallup is a good start too, to go along with CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, he's not going to get the same amount of targets. But one thing that I do kind of fear is the Cowboys or the Chargers make a few mistakes. The Cowboys are able to run the ball, and it turns into one of those games where the Cowboys don't have to pass. Hopefully, it's a high-scoring firefight, and we feel great at the end of the day starting all of our Cowboys and Chargers. But, in this game, especially this year, we've seen a lot of crazy things happen. You don't know how it can go. And the Cowboys have a defense capable of scoring points, as we've also seen.
Yeah.
So that's really all I've got for this one, Derek, if you have anything to add.
No, I think we're good to roll.
Yeah, and with that, don't forget, guys, the games start at 6:30 in the morning tomorrow. So if you have anybody on the Ravens or Titans, just make sure that you check your lineup. Don't forget to check for all the guys that we mentioned that were questionable. The last-second reports do come out. Like we said, guys like T. Higgins, he's been cleared to play, but we've also seen this story before. As the weeks go on, you're just going to need to be careful. We know how healthy or not that these guys are, and just be mindful. But with that, that'll be it. We'll be back on Monday with all of the recaps of the games. Stay tuned for all of our head-to-heads. And as you know, guys, come back next time and take more reps with the first team.
Yes, sir.